He is Ian Eagle back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Ian?
Hey, Rich. Great to talk to you.
Good to chat with you, too. So you're getting ready to go to Kentucky?
Yeah, we got a little bit of a whiteout, as I'm sure you've heard, in the Northeast. But excited to go to Lexington and see if John Calipari and the Wildcats can finish the deal against Billy Donovan in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, Florida's a 500. What shot do you give them to hang the first L of the season on Kentucky?
Not much. They played them actually very tight in the first meeting. This has been a roller coaster ride season for the Gators. I've had them a couple of times, a loss to UConn, a loss to LSU. And it's been a transition year for Billy Donovan, who has not really grown accustomed to these transition years. He had a couple of them after the back-to-back national championships when they lost a ton of talent. But this team was projected to be a top 10 team, and it just has not clicked. It has not come together. Team chemistry hasn't quite been there. I think they probably were a bit overrated by Billy's own admission. He didn't buy into the hype. And Kentucky right now is a machine. And although they've been tested, and they were tested against Georgia the other night, they have been extremely resilient. And one last thing on Kentucky, Rich.
Sure.
It's been funny to watch and interesting the evolution of John Calipari, because when he was at UMass, I think Calipari's persona was that of a self-promoter. He goes to the Nets, and everybody thought, well, can he do it in the pros? They go to the playoffs one year, they lose to the Bulls, and then the bottom drops out the next year. He gets fired at 3-15. He reemerges at Memphis and Kentucky, and the perception again was great recruiter. And now I think finally, after all these years, people are starting to look at John Calipari as a great coach, a great all-around coach, not just recruiter, not just promoter, a guy that has done it all, and he's done an excellent job with this team.
Well, because you can get all these talented kids who are going to be one and done, or many of them one and done. You can't win with all of them, because at some point there has to be a system that everybody buys into.
Sure.
And that may be his biggest coaching challenge that he's pulled off, as much as the X's and O's, Ian.
Yeah, and I think the initial theory would be, if you're a coach, I want that situation. I want the blue-chip talent, the best that the country has to offer, and I'll just take the challenge every year, even though we wipe the slate clean. And then the reality is you have to start fresh. And I think Calipari has been able to change the way he's coached. And, yes, he's still tough on guys. Yes, he's still very demanding. He's fired up on the sidelines. But I do think he's been able to balance it out with the human side of understanding that these guys have come here with a purpose in mind. Many of them are going on to the pros. He gets McDonald's All-Americas, 9 of them on this roster. But it's not that easy to juggle the egos and to juggle the expectations. And he's really done a tremendous job doing it. This year in particular, I think he's really handled what comes with all of those challenges of having the best of the best and making it work and doing it day in and day out. This team's undefeated, so the record speaks for itself.
And Ian Eagle joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Who do you think the top seeds are going to be when Selection Sunday hits in 10 days from now?
Yeah, clearly Kentucky will be the number 1 overall seed no matter what happens. If they lost to Florida, if they lost in the SEC tournament, they've done enough to get the number 1 seed. Gonzaga has been the one that we've questioned out of the West Coast based on their competition level, but I think the resume will get them there. I think they're going to get the number 1 seed. And then it gets interesting, because you've got Virginia, you've got Duke, you've got Villanova, you've got Wisconsin. That would be the next set of teams that will be in the running for the number 1 seed. Will the ACC tournament determine that one team gets a 1 seed out of the conference, or will Duke and Virginia both get a 1? Does Villanova have to win the Big East? They've gone under the radar in order to get the 1. And if Wisconsin runs the table here and wins the Big Ten, is that enough to get them a number 1 seed? Probably not. And then the other challenge is you don't really want to be the top 2 seed, because then you will face Kentucky at some point as opposed to meeting them later on. So I'll be very curious to see how it all shakes out over the next 10 days or so, and which teams emerge as number 1. But if Gonzaga wins out, I do think they're going to get a number 1 seed, Rich, in the West.
Yeah, Ian Eagle joining me here. He's got Florida against Kentucky on CBS on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. When you read promo for Scorpion, Ian, I know you'll be thinking of me. That'll be sort of your like Carol Burnett tugging of the ear. When you nail that, just put a little extra oomph into that read, that promo for Scorpion.
The only only problem is I don't want to have a Harvey Korman moment and just lose it.
Yeah. No, I think you can
I've got a guard.
You can keep it together.
Also, Rich, I've heard some rumors that he had Michael Kay on.
Yes.
And I believe he did cut into my time a bit, but that's another issue.
No, it's okay. It just delayed your appearance.
Michael made an announcement on your show, which many in the New York area are already familiar with. And I don't want you to judge, because I'm going to make a similar announcement. I also do not consume condiments.
That's ridiculous.
I know.
How's that possible, Ian?
Please don't treat me like a freak of nature.
No ketchup? No ketchup ever? Are you serious?
I had ketchup once by mistake. I was 10 years old, a class trip to Washington, D.C. My guard was down. They got McDonald's, and we were in a group, and the teacher
Your guard was down.
My guard was down. I was disoriented. I was out of state. But we were across state lines, and they were chucking hamburgers at us, like, you get a hamburger, you get a hamburger. And again, not based on anything other than I didn't feel like myself. I was on a class trip. I bit into the hamburger, and it had ketchup, and that was the only time. And I did not finish the hamburger, by the way. I spit it out on the spot, and that was the only time I've ingested ketchup.
Michael will have hot sauce. He doesn't count that. Where do you fall on the hot sauce?
No, I like hot sauce. I like salsa. I like hot sauce. So it's really ketchup and mustard. To be honest with you, if you pin me down and put ketchup in my mouth, I would live. If you did the same with, I don't know if that was a plan, but if you did the same with mustard, I could easily die there.
Ian, what is your take on milk? And by that I mean a color analyst saying that I've been milked. Have you ever had that? Did you hear that from Bill Walton?
I did. Dave Pash. I believe there was a 10-second period of dead air.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do if you're a play-by-play guy and suddenly your analyst says, I have milked a cow and I've also been milked? What do you do?
I would follow up. I think there would be a probe of some sort, some kind of question to follow that statement. Look, I've worked with Bill Raftery for many, many years, and he's made many, many statements that oftentimes I feel the need to translate to English. Bill has never stated that he's been milked at any time. So
onions. He said onions. He's gone onions, but never.
I don't even have to I don't have to say a word with Bill, and I can do an impression. I can just make sound effect.
Well, who are you doing the game with on Saturday?
Doug Gottlieb.
Okay, so if Gottlieb ever just decides to say, I've been milked, here's what you say. You just pause, and then you go, Scorpion, Monday nights at 9 on CBS, America's most milked network. That's what you say, Ian. I'm just trying to leave you better than where I found you. That's all I'm trying to do.
And you always do.
Thanks for calling in, Ian.
All right, Rich.
That's Ian Eagle.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.